What's up, world? eCussion is here. Experimenting in the lab. We've got something new working on the vocal processor today. And this is, let's see, what even is this lesson today? Let's look on the screen. I think that we're around lesson 7 or 8. But yeah, this is lesson number 8. I can't believe that. So welcome to lesson number 8 of NGO Radio Terra's free lessons for all ages and all levels. Today, we're talking about positive self-talk. We're talking about the inner game of drumming and ultimately the inner game of creativity. And today, I'm going to talk to you about some of the quotes, readings, clippings, little stream of consciousness blurbs that I've written down myself, notes from my dad, notes from one of my mentors, all things that have been sort of dumped into my mind throughout my professional creative career as possibilities, as ways to be flexible, as North Star ideas. And these are things that have sort of kept me grounded, kept me in the focused space, kept me in the light, so to speak. And I feel really grateful to be able to share this stuff with you today. I feel like this is sort of an off the beaten path sort of concept for music lessons, but I think this is just as important for young musicians or at any age, right? Because this is for all levels and all ages. This information is important for everybody to move forward and stay in music, no matter if you're doing music to make money as well as to be obviously healed through the power of music, or whether or not you're just doing music because you love it. So today I'm working with some improvisational ideas that I feel brave enough to share with the world today. I've been enjoying working on my own positive self-talk, and some of that has resulted and translated in me being more fearless and brave in the possibility of making mistakes. And instead of thinking about failure, thinking about my first attempt in learning, right? That's an acronym, FAIL, first attempt in learning. So that may not necessarily hit home for you, right? But if it does, it's really just another way of saying be kind to yourself on your journey towards self-expression and creativity. Preparation minus self-interference equals performance. I'll say it again. Preparation minus self-interference equals performance. Positive self-talk. That's what we're talking about. Positive self-talk. It's the only way. And of course, we can lapse into negative self-talk, but this is the only way to truly build the confidence to create more lasting change within yourself, your community, and your art. Preparation. Welcome. Welcome, world. This is lesson number 8 of trimester number 1 of 2026. Thanks for being here. This is NGO Radio Terra's free lessons for all ages and all levels. My name is E. Cushion, aka Matt Morzimer. Today, we're talking about positive self-talk and the inner game of drumming. Big shout out to all of our sponsors, NGO Radio Terra, Tamboro Drums, Roland Corporation, Sensory Percussion, Proel, Icon Microphones. We can't do it without you. Today, I'm going to be talking about some concepts that have really helped me as a musician, helped me as a creative. These are concepts from my mentor, my dad, some music teachers I've had, newspaper clippings, magazine articles, nuggets from the internet. Welcome. Thanks so much for being here. This is lesson number 8. We're talking about the inner game of drumming today, y'all. And what that means to me is that there's an innate experience that we are having with respect to our craft and in proximity to our craft that is something that is sacred, that is precious, and that is based on our breath. So one of the things that I emphasize to all musicians, young or seasoned, if you will, is to get in touch with your breath, get into some breathing exercises, find a meditation practice, figure out breathing methods. But be in touch with the very thing that keeps us alive. Be in touch with the very thing that they write into music. Where to breathe, where not to breathe. The very thing that singers innately know how to do and when, in between each very minute, precious syllable. It's the breath that allows me to take one from the very root of earth all the way through my crown to the highest of heavens, to keep me in the game as a drummer, to keep me within the strength limits of the song, to keep me prepared and to keep me in that physical pocket. Breathing is everything. So what we want to do is we want to just go ahead and start to understand that if we just listen for our breath, we can already start to tap into it, right? And if we can tap into something like that, then maybe we can tap into something called positive self-talk. And I think that y'all know about positive self-talk. We also know about negative self-talk. So for me, it's all about understanding when I'm having this experience. And I want to share a couple things about creating the lasting change within you. So that is practice awareness. We can never understand how we're being or what we're doing, especially as musicians, until we record ourselves. Once we record ourselves, we know how we sound. The same thing goes for when you're speaking in public, if you're a public speaker. You have to record yourself speaking in public so that you know if you're using too many likes, ands, or ums, or weird pauses, right? So we want to make sure that we're aware of how we sound, and if we become aware of our internal conversation prior and during our task or during the performance, then we can start to dial it in even more. And that is a very cool place to be, because it means that you're simultaneously being present and active within the music or the creative process, and you're also being aware of how you're being in the process. Also, try and understand where your self-talk is coming from. Is it coming from a younger, less experienced version of yourself? That's a very important thing, because sometimes we're tapped into a negative self-talk voice that is feeding us information from a version of ourselves that we are no longer. Right? Sometimes we are tapped into a voice within ourselves that is speaking negatively, that is speaking from a perspective of a younger self that we are no longer, of a different self that we are no longer. Encourage improvement within yourself is the next phase, right? So we want to add to the conversation and tell ourselves what's truly working. What is truly working? What are the one or two things in my life that actually are working? How can I add to the conversation and tell myself what is also true in the moment? Also true in the moment. Also true in the moment. Also true in the moment. What's also true in the moment? Also true in the moment. Also true in the moment. Also true in the moment. Tell myself it's also true in the moment. And then we want to practice reinforcement. So we want to practice with all the feedback that we're bringing to ourselves through recording ourselves, through understanding and being more innovative with our introspection, right? And practicing doesn't make perfect, but perfect practice makes perfect. So the more dialed in you can make your practice routine, the more intentional you can be about your practice routine, the more quote unquote perfect it can be, right? We're being realistic about that word perfect, but if alignment with source is to be attained, that's perfection, and we're going for that. I'm going for that, at least I'll speak for myself, right? So I want to make sure that these thoughts that I'm thinking are in alignment with that higher self, and I want to notice how I'm feeling after I'm saying these great things. I want to notice the response within my art, a response within my audience, a response within my followership, and a response from myself about the result that I have been performing newly in the task of. All right, so let's get with it. Let's check that out. Remember, preparation minus self-interference equals your performance. I want to speak on one more thing. This is an adage that my dad always shares with me, and that is that the body needs no help, just no interference. 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 There's nobody needs no help, but interference is the result of your negative self-talk in the moment of creation. So you should just relax, prepare, don't self-interfere, and have a brilliant performance. Right? So while I'm actually talking about some of these things, I'm going into some of these improvisations as a way to entertain myself and as also a way to sort of practice this positive self-talk about, not really knowing what the result of this creativity that I'm sharing with you is, not really knowing what the outcome or the sound of how I am sounding, talking to you is going to be, but accepting that everything that I did to prepare for today, minus me getting in my own way, is going to yield a fantastic lesson, a fantastic performance. Okay, so let's shift gears away from our looking at ourselves and let's shift towards other musicians and other creatives. One thing that's been on my heart this week has been about the art of the conversation. And I would love for you all to appreciate that everything that we do as creatives, especially within the world of collaboration, has to do with a conversation based around our art and our collaborators or our patrons or the people like our clients, the people that we're working with. So I suppose that in conversation, we have people who simultaneously lead, right? So we're speaking and then we follow, we're listening. I think that we can all be better leaders. I think, and this is my own personal opinion, just about how men are showing up in the world, but the male leaders that we're seeing predominantly, especially here in the States, are not leading very well. That kind of leadership isn't yielding a great result here in this country or in the world. And in a larger conversation, this isn't about masculine or feminine so much as it just is about, well, I'm going to take responsibility as the man that I am to be a leader. If you're a non-binary person, take responsibility as that non-binary person to be a leader. If you're if you're presenting as a woman, take responsibility to be a leader here in the world. And I think that if we can see more awesome women leaders or awesome non-binary leaders or more awesome male leaders in the world, we can have better conversations. We can have a chance at getting clarity with whatever we're working on together, right? So a couple thoughts that I want to share from a great author named David White, all right? And this is sort of just simply about the art of conversation. So at the very heart of leadership, indeed, at the very soul of it, is the art of conversation, the ability to create a dialogue that others will willingly join. Any good conversation extends an implicit invitation for those who join it to meet at some as yet indefinable frontier, as though that joining to be a part of the process of defining that new frontier. The best conversations make clear distinctions between what has gone before and what is now possible, and they give the sense that we are a part of something that is enlarging us or our organization, rather than confining us. So I think that if we're just to summarize that quickly and short, in a nutshell, we're talking about that if we can just go ahead and talk about what was and what is possible now, just even having this in any shape or form, in whatever dialect you speak, can move things forward. But if we can't have even a conversation about what just happened and what's happening now, we can't get to what's going to happen in the future. What's going to happen in the future is where we're all trying to get to. So we want to go ahead and, as quickly as possible, as succinctly as possible, have a conversation that yields a futuristic result. So stay involved with the people in your life and recognize when you're not having good conversations or conversations at all. The way musicians make money is by answering the phone and answering their texts or answering their emails. And I get that we are all busy people. Sometimes it just so happens that you get a text while you were in the bathroom and your phone was in the other room, and then 4 people called you randomly in the span of 10 more minutes where you weren't by your phone, knocking my particular text or phone call down past the rim of the screen on your phone, causing you to just literally not see my name. That thing could happen to somebody, right? You could make that effort, and I'm sure that does happen, but rarely is that the case. And if that happens to you where you're on the other side of it, where you tend to miss people's calls or miss people's text messages, and you do music or creativity or something for a living, really try and sorry, I think we lost our screen here. Try and be more responsible with communication, because it can yield more business for you. Hold on, let's check out what's going on here. Well, until we get our screen back, I'm just going to continue talking about a couple of these things. And I think it's important that we continue to talk, at least while I have this live time with you, because these are things that I think that all musicians and creatives can benefit from. So, just making sure that you're being responsible with your communication to people, inviting the people in your life to sort of join that new frontier of experience that is newness, that is a plan for future engagement. But you can't get to plans of future engagement if you're not exactly connected at all in a communication frontier. So that means phone calls, that means texts, that means emails. It just means understanding who you're working with, being flexible to their communication style, but communicating nonetheless. What's going on here? Can we get a screen? Thanks for your patience, y'all. Okay. Well, this may not necessarily mesh, but I think that in the spirit of collaboration, in the spirit of open-mindedness, I think that we would be able to become harmonious and win in the venue of collaboration. So let's talk about different ways that people be. I think that analytical people and people who have a driver personality they live rooted in time. They live rooted in being efficient with time. They live rooted in using time by the book. Whereas people who have an expressive or an amiable sense about themselves, personality-wise, tend to live within emotions and live within feelings. I think that all these things I'm telling you are certainly interchangeable, and they differ from day to day depending on how we as individuals feel, right? But, when you're working with people, ask yourself and ask them how much time we have in this conversation, person. How much time do you have, so that you can gauge how effective you can be within communicating your idea? Because if all of a sudden we find ourselves as a very expressive person and we get lost in the feeling of our idea, 10, 15 minutes could have passed, and that analytical person is like, I only have 2 more minutes and you're running out of time, right? These are communication styles, and these are things we want to be aware of, especially in the fields of business. So how much time do we really have? When it comes to working with people, I think we should address the idea of flexibility. So I don't think that everybody should, in every circumstance, be super flexible. But I personally find that I get more done and I have less of a heavy feeling in working with in the intense field of creativity with a lot of people, a lot of egos, if I myself can be more flexible. So some important aspects to every person are that we are, and this is, these aspects are all happening simultaneous, right? And they're all interchangeable. But these are important aspects that every person is like all other people, that we are like all other people, which I know is arguable. Let's argue. That we are more like some people than other people, that we are like nobody else at all, and in significant ways, these things are changeable from moment to moment, task to task, day to day. So again, the 4 levels of flexibility within all of us at all times are that we can be like everybody else, we can only be like certain people, we can be like no other people, and on certain days, in certain ways, these things can change. So it's important to realize that these phenomenons are always coexisting within us at all times. But there is a way that you can be flexible in a situation. So this is how the individual wants to be treated in this particular situation. So that's a situational flex. An individual flex would be how this particular individual wants you to be flexible with them, or you want them with you. Then there's a style flex. So this is how a said given person has a social style preference that they want to be treated in a certain way. And then finally, there's like a basic flexibility standard, which is just the standard of flexibility that we should all be treating each other with, which is respect, honesty, and fairness. So when you're working with an amiable person, and when you're working with any one of these particular types, you might realize that while your personality is in a different category, learning how to be flexible to them basically, situationally, socially, or stylistically, or just individually is really important. Again, I want to bring it back to the breath. So get in touch with your breath, right? Sometimes I felt like in that particular passage, I was very much in touch with my breath and leaving some space for breath. And other moments, I felt like I needed to catch up on it. Develop a relationship with your breath, and it can inform your art in ways that you never necessarily imagined. So, really have fun with that, but also take it seriously, because that is the key to your own ability to relax. It's the key to your own ability to meditate. It is the key for your own ability to be within parallel of your existence. It is the only way for you to necessarily connect with the divine source. And now we go over to Stephen R. Covey's The Eighth Habit.
Leadership versus management. 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 Leadership, management. Leadership, management. Leadership, management. Leadership, management. Leadership. Leaders are people who are trying to do the right thing. Leaders are people who do, hopefully, the right thing. Managers are the people who do things right. Managers are the people who do, hopefully, things right. Leadership is about coping with change. Leadership is about coping with change. Management is about coping with complexity. Management is about coping with complexity. Leadership has a kinetic feel to it, a sense of movement. Leadership has a kinetic feel to it, a sense of movement. Managing is about handling things, about maintaining order, and about organization and control. Managing is about handling things, about maintaining order, organization, and control. Leaders are concerned with what things mean to people. Right? Leaders should be concerned with what things mean to people. Managers are concerned about how things get done. I'll repeat that. Managers are concerned about how things get done. Leaders are the architects. Leaders are the architects. Leaders are the architects. Leaders are the architects. Managers are the builders. Managers are the builders. Leadership focuses on the creation creation of a common vision. Leadership focuses on the creation of a common vision. Management is the design of work. Management is the design of work. Leadership versus management. 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 Leadership, management. Leadership, management. Breathing, management. Leadership, breathing, management. Breathing, leadership, breathing, management. Breathing, leadership, breathing, management, leadership, management, leadership.
God, guys, this is fun. I'm enjoying this. This is kind of cool. I hope when I listen back to myself, I don't completely hate everything that I'm doing. But I feel really good about today's work, and I'm excited about the things that we discussed. What I would like to leave you with is sort of a recap of everything we discussed. So, we discussed that the root of our being successful, ultimately as creatives and as human beings, most importantly, is this idea of good self-talk, right? And because we always have to be, working towards something where we live in a world that requires us to get up and go to work every day. Oh, did I lose my, I think I lost my picture again. Okay, it's all right. We've always got an option. There's always a way. There's always a way. But yeah, so that sometimes we're too busy and we can give each other grace for those moments. But be a musician or a professional creative, it's required of you to hit people back so that you can get the work and get the money. All right? And don't let laziness or disorganization or just lack of motivation to get in the way of you doing that. Then there's, getting related with people and what their creative or business style is. And that, requires us to know and detect whether or not someone's an analytical person, a driver-like person, an amiable person, or an expressive person. These things are important to know so that we can kind of understand who we are in the face of all that and interface with them properly. Then there's the idea of, once we understand that, then what do we do? Well, we have to know how to be flexible, and we have to understand that there are sort of 4 phenomenons happening within any given person at any time, which is that we could be just like anybody else or everybody else, or that we could be like very few people, right? Or that we could be like no one at all, or that this significantly changes from moment to moment or day to day. So how, within respect to those 4 phenomenons, how can we be flexible to people, or how can we ask people to be flexible to us? Is it stylistically flexible? Is it individually flexible? Is it situationally flexible? Or is it just basically flexible? Like someone's not showing you the proper amount of honor, or respect, or fairness that you deserve. And lastly, it's about this thing about, knowing the difference between leadership and management, okay? Leaders are people who do the right thing. Managers are people who do the thing right. And of course, this is a very binary way of looking at things, but this is also up kind of deep because it just goes to show that there are certainly 2 types of very powerful people in the room at any given point. Don't get confused between a person who's really being a manager but saying they're a leader, or vice versa. Next is that leadership is about coping with change, whereas management is about coping with complexity. Then there's the fact that leadership has a kinesthetic feel to it, something you can touch, has a sense of movement as well. Managing is about handling things, about maintaining order, and about maintaining that speed of movement and organizing and controlling how this gets done. Whereas, leadership has this movement to it that is less definable than that. Then there's the idea that leaders are concerned with what things mean to people. All right, managers are concerned about how to get it done. Big picture versus little picture, macro versus micro. Leaders are the architects, whereas managers are the builders. How many people do you know that have not necessarily started a company but managed at a branch where they have a tremendous amount of responsibility? Well, they're building that branch, that company's branch, brick by brick as a manager. And then finally, leadership focuses on the creation of the common vision, right? The CEO seems to be that person. Management is the design of the work. It's about controlling how the common vision is aligned and about how it's output. So these are some things that I think everybody can really get involved with, and be aware of how you create lasting change within yourself. Practice awareness. Try to understand yourself and other people. Encourage improvement within yourself and other people, and then also practice reinforcing these great ideas. Okay. This is Ecussionist indeed.
This is lesson number 8, trimester number 1 in 2026. Big shout out to NGO Radio, Terra, Proel, Roland Corporation. Oh, this is so trippy. Sensory Percussion, Icon Microphones, and Tamburo Drums. Big shout out to y'all. See you next week for lesson number 9. Oh, hey, Mom.
Now that even I can be trusted, I can